Have you ever made a garment that you thought you were going to love, but ended up rarely reaching for it because you've realised that the colour drains you, or somehow makes you feel meh? It's so disheartening when that happens. So this week, I'm talking to stylist and colour consultant Numba Pinkerton about how to make successful colour choices for our garment projects and the rest of our wardrobes. Plus, Numba tells us why most of us should remove the black holes from our clothing selections. Stick around a few minutes and we'll get into it. Welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 17 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge, Me Made May. But like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate and ecological crises, and I'm looking at the way that my lifestyle contributes to them. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. And I really hope you'll join me in this journey. How's it going, lovely listener? Thank you so much for pressing play on this podcast episode. I'm confident that you won't be disappointed. Thank you so much to those who responded to my question in last week's intro about what else you're doing whilst listening to Check Your Thread. Previous guest Judith Staley tagged Check Your Thread on Instagram to let me know that whilst listening to the latest episode, she was unpicking the sleeve head on her son's t-shirt prior to repositioning it. And Mimosa_sewing on Instagram let me know that they were topping and tailing gooseberries in advance of making a crumble. Delish. And Yorkie Mouse tagged Check Your Thread on Instagram to let me know that they were resting in the evening sun whilst watching a ladybird wandering around on their kitchen floor. Fear not, the ladybird was rescued. So keep letting me know what you're up to whilst listening to Check Your Thread. I love this so much. Other things that I love include getting to thank people for signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. And this week, that's Emma. And I love thanking existing patrons for offering the amount of their support. And this week, that's Mary. You two are absolute legends for helping me keep body and soul together whilst I create this podcast for your listening pleasure. If you want to be one of the absolute legends who make this podcast possible, please head to patreon.com/checkyourthread to see what's going on over there and to sign up for literally any amount that you wish. Right, on to this week's episode. To be honest, I'm almost embarrassed by how long it's taken me to properly address the topic of colour analysis on the podcast. I first planned to do this about 2 years ago, but better late than never, and I'm so glad that it was Numba that I got to talk to. There was a ton I took away from this conversation. Honestly, I learned a lot and obviously want to get my colours analysed now. Next week will be a super fun catch up with one of your very favourite repeat podcast guests. So until then, take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and where possible, take care of those in the world that need our help. I'd love to hear any feedback about this episode, and I'd obviously love to know what you get up to whilst listening to Check Your Thread. So hit me up and enjoy. Hi Numba, thank you so much for giving me some of your morning today. So could you please tell us who you are, where you are, and what fills your days?
So my name is Numba, I'm a personal stylist, and I live just outside Glasgow in Scotland. What fills my days is mostly work. So working with clients on a one-to-one, I do workshops, I'll do a lot of background stuff, the social media needs done. So stuff like that is things I've been doing. And then I've got 2 boys, one's 9, one's 5. So they take up the other chunk of my life. So I feel like I don't have any more time after that's all done.
So I know the one aspect of your work as a stylist is advising on colour, which is the topic that we're going to get into today.
Yes, I'm excited.
I can't wait. So obviously this is a podcast predominantly for people who make their own clothes, and doing that involves a big investment of time and energy and money and resources.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the way I see it, like the key to sewing more sustainably is making clothes that will see a good amount of use over a long period of time to honour those investments.
Yes, I genuinely believe in that. Whether you're making clothes or you're shopping, I think you need that cost per wear, and it needs to be really well thought out.
Brilliant. So I know that I'm not alone in having made all those investments and ended up with a garment that doesn't see very much wear, because when we put it on, it just feels like meh. And I know, for example, I've got a couple of blouses in my wardrobe right now that I love the style of,
and it took me ages to make them, and I fitted them to my body really well, but it's the colour that's stopping me from putting them on.
Yeah.
So this isn't really a topic that we've really explored in depth on the podcast before, so I'm really excited to get into it, because I think it's high time that we focused on this to help other people maybe prevent some of their projects having a similar fate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. No, it's so important. I think a lot of, even like people not sewing, I think I've made those mistakes. I was an example of that. I had this dress that I'd invested in. I got it from like Harrods. I'd been to one and I bought this dress, and it was like my, the ultimate dress that I was just so proud of. And I realised the reason I loved it was because it just fitted my body shape pretty well. I've kind of got this sort of pear shape that I need things to be a bit more A-line, with dresses especially, to allow space for hips, right? So I thought this fitted really well, loved it. But every time I put it on, my husband would always say he didn't feel it looked that great. And I remember thinking,
Oh,
like, how dare he say that? Like, no, do not tell me that. I love this dress. And
I'm the stylist.
I know. So I remember first getting my colours done and then realising orange, this dress was orange. It was not in my colour palette. And weirdly, when I went back to it, it made sense, because when I put it back and it's almost like this veil had been lifted, I could see it for what it was. And I thought, actually, this is really draining me.
Oh.
I still kept it for a year, and then eventually I got rid of it. And I think once I had other clothes that I felt comfortable in colours that I knew like lifted me, it was an easy no after that. But I think when you don't know, you hold on to things that maybe you could have easily got rid of if you knew they weren't the right thing for you. So
Yeah. So well, let's start right from the scratch. So how objective or subjective do you think colour is really, like, in your opinion? Like, can we objectively say that a particular colour suits someone? And where does subjectivity come into play as well? Like, either the person wearing the colour or the audience, for a want of a better word.
yeah, I think there's two things that I would think of in that respect. I think yes, because when I do someone's colours, they get their colour analysis done in the studio. Where with drapes, you can easily see that certain shades, so it's not necessarily colour, as well as shades of colour, so you can physically see certain shades really lifting, and you think, oh, their face looks great, it's glowing, almost like this, it's almost like I've used amazing skincare, right? They get this natural glow on their skin. You notice their eyes really popping out, like, people have different eye colours, and you can see some of them really coming through with certain colours, and then you don't even notice their eye colour with certain shades. So you notice it physically working. And where I notice clients really see it is when the shade doesn't work. They'll be like, oh no, take that away. Like that looks awful. Just like, I know, right, I get your point, take it away. So you can really see that. So yes, that's factual, you can see it. But I know other times it's clients that are like, oh, I'm really struggling to see the difference here. And I think sometimes as an individual, it's hard to make those decisions yourself, because how you see yourself is maybe, it's hard to kind of see yourself in a certain way. So I think for some people, they find that really hard to see themselves. So then you need a third eye to be like, no, I can see the difference for you.
Interesting. So what do you think are the benefits of taking the time or spending the money on really getting to the grips with colours and what suits you and what doesn't?
Oh my goodness, I love colour, like to the point where I wrote a book called The No Black Project, because it makes such a massive difference. I don't think people realise just how much. So first of all, we know about the physical appearance, right? When you wear colour close to your face, it reflects onto your face. It's either going to work with your natural colouring, it's going to work against it. And when it works, it lifts everything look good. So you don't have to do like the fake tanning as much like a lot of clients might have done before, because it's matching your natural colouring. So you're getting that natural benefit of, I don't need a lot of makeup. I can look good naturally. So that's great, right?
So it's working with what you've already got.
Literally. Yeah, and it just enhances that, and I love that. It's like it just enhances your natural beauty. Like what's there not to like about that? So that's great, but I think that's what people think of, it's just that. So then it's not a big thing, right? But actually, what you realise as well is it's the shopping, it's the decluttering. Like when I first got my colours done, the declutter was so much easier. I could go in, and then things that were just the wrong shades, they came straight back out. There was no question, because I knew that shade drains. Why would I want to wear something that drains me, right? So it's straight out. And then the other thing is shopping. What you don't realise with shopping as well is it's the colours that jump out at you first. So when you walk in and you see, say, like nice lemon yellow dress, you're like, oh, that's a beautiful dress, because the lemon yellow is getting drawn to you. If that was like a brown or maybe like a black, is that going to draw your eye in the same way? So the shopping becomes a lot easier. I think if you knew and you understood the shades that work for you, it's then easier to pick. Like in the case of like a lot of your listeners, it's easier to pick out fabrics as well, because you can just look and be like, right, I know that's not going to work. I know that shade's going to work. Oh, I know that shade is close. It's not, maybe not quite right, but it's close enough, and I'm okay with that. But also the last thing is the mixing and matching, it's putting colours together. It's getting dressed every day. That's the bit that I think people underestimate, because when you might have the best like wide leg trousers, harem, you can have all these amazing styles, but when you go and get dressed, how are you gonna, if you have, say, for example, a bright pink pair of harem trousers that you absolutely love, or you made them, right? You've spent the time making them. A lot of the time you might want to be like, I'm gonna wear that today, right? You're excited, grab them, and then you think, what do I wear this with? And then it's a case of, oh, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. So then they go back and don't get worn. And what gets worn is back to the black, right? Because it's safe, it's easy, and you match it with more blacks. And then you end up, I think, it's time for your style a little bit, because you could have worn them if you knew what to match it with, but you don't. So therefore you don't wear them.
Yeah.
So that's a bit for me that it's like, if you understand colour, if you know how colour works, it's not just about learning your best colour, it's about understanding how colour works as well. Then you can make more informed decisions. With your outfits, you can be as creative as you want, you can be as neutral as you want, but you can equally be as colourful as you want, if you know which shades would match each of these colours.
Amazing. I'm going to talk to you a little bit later on about matching colours, but I'd love to know more about you, like how you, as a stylist, like how you approach colour analysis when you're working with your clients. Like, I was really interested to read on your website that colour analysis for you, it's not just about selecting colours and tones that work with like our biological and genetic attributes, but also, because I think that's kind of all people kind of think about, isn't it, with colour analysis?
Yeah.
But you seem to take into also people's aesthetic and style preferences and their personalities as well. So I'd love to know a little bit about how you, with your practice, how you work with clients then. Like, where do you start?
Oh my goodness, it's so important because each of my clients is so different from each other. And this is why I always remind my clients not to compare themselves to other women, because everybody is so different. You might be a similar body shape, you might be similar colours, but how you approach that, your style, personality, who you are in relation to style, could be completely different from someone else. So for me, when someone comes in, is one, I get them to fill out a questionnaire. And the questionnaire is just to get to grips with who they are, not just their physical, because there's obviously the kind of physical part, but it's also like, what do they like? I also ask, which a lot of people struggle with, is like, which celebrity do you like the aesthetic of? And it's just little questions to get to grips of what's your favourite colours? What are 4 of your favourite colours? What are your favourite neutrals? Is it browns and like khaki, or is it like blacks and whites and greys? And it's that, getting to a sense of that, because sometimes someone could love warm colours, but they also like black, and it's like, well, black is cooler. How do we add that in? So we get a kind of profile of their personality in that sense, and then when they come into the studio, they get a sense of, for me, understanding that colour and how colour works. So we start off with, right, how does colour work? What are the elements of colour? And how do you tell the difference in warm and cool shades? That's a really big one.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
when you shop and say you don't have your colour palette, you need to know in your head, to have that skill to be like, right, that's too warm, that's not going to work. That's cooler, that's going to work. So light or dark, you can always balance out in the outfit. Bright or muted, you can always kind of fix it in the outfit. But if you get that warm and cool wrong, everything can go wrong really quickly. So I make sure that we practice like analysing the shades. I'll produce like a couple of drapes. I'm like, there's 2 greys. Which one do you think is warm? Which one do you think is cool? Here's 2 greens. Here's 2 pinks. And that clients find that so interesting. I don't think any other stylist kind of does this, but clients find this so interesting, because they're like, oh, I just thought red was red. I just thought grey was grey. So that's the bit that they start to get grips of. So there's difference between the shades, and that bit is really important. So once we get that educational part out of the way, then it's then time for, I always ask, like, which side are you kind of getting drawn to if we look at the 2 palettes, knowing what you know about warm and cool. And clients are very clear on that. They'll be like, do you know what? I think I'm drawn to like the cooler side, or I'm drawn to the warmer side. So that gives us a kind of starting point of, okay, that's interesting. Let's see how that matches up to when we do the colour analysis, right? So when we do the colour analysis, so we first find out the season, so whether that's winter, summer, spring or autumn, based on warm and cool, dark and light, bright and muted. And then we get to like the 12 seasonal. The 12 seasonal is essentially a kind of, you still get your season, but we get the most dominant quality of that season. So I'm a winter, for example, and winter's got, you know, like cool, deep qualities and bright qualities, but there's one that kind of stands out just that wee bit more. So for me, it's like the cool. So therefore, like it'll be a cool winter. So then they get like the kind of best colours. Now that I feel like is a blessing and a curse, right? So when someone gets their exact colours, they're like, right, I can't deviate from that. This is literally it. I can't, you know, wear anything else. But the reminder for my clients is that's a starting point, and that's great if you just want to double check a couple of colours. But what you want to aim for is use that skill more to be like, right, is that close enough? Is that, you know, maybe I'm cool, like that colour's cool. I suit deeper colours. Oh, it's also quite deep. That would be great. I don't care if it's my palette. I know it's got those qualities that I'm looking for my colouring. So that bit is important. So yeah, so I don't even call it a colour analysis for me. I call it a colour consultation because it involves both aspects, your base colours, but also the understanding. And I think you need both. I think if I just gave someone a colour palette, it's too easy for them to get excited. And then before you know it, sits at the bottom of the drawer and you don't apply it, you don't use it, and you're back to square one.
I think that that's actually really interesting. And I think that some of the criticisms that I've read about colour analysis is that some people feel it's too prescriptive. Like, these are your colours, and then they get devastated because their favourite colour or their favourite shade of a colour isn't included. But what you're saying is that it's not that cut and dried. Like, there's more leeway, there's more room to experiment.
There's always more leeway because, like, I feel like life's too short. You don't want to restrict yourself. And ultimately, see, even if I add a colour that, say, for example, you love mustard, but you really, really don't suit it, I always say ultimately it's you, it's your style, it's your wardrobe. Just wear it. Just wear it. If it's bringing you that much joy, honestly, just wear it. That's what I go by. Yeah. But obviously, if you feel like, do you know, actually, it is draining, like my orange dress where I felt like I loved it, but it was draining, what I like to do is wear it, but add it maybe in a different way. If you love mustard, add it in a bag, add it in a pair of shoes, add it in trousers, anything away from your face that then doesn't directly drain.
That is so interesting because I'm literally, you can't see because I'm wearing some mustard dungarees right now.
You're wearing mustard? Oh, is it your colour?
I love mustard. I don't know that it is my colour because when I put it close to my face, like if I was wearing a blouse or a jumper or a cardigan that goes right up, it's not good. So I was wondering if you can more get away with colours that aren't necessarily your colours, I'm using air quotes here for people that can't see, but wearing them away from your face, like you were saying, like more like trousers or shoes or a bag.
Yeah. I think for, you know, like similar to your mustard, for a lot of people it is black. I always say, well, you can, you know, there's ways you can wear it. So, for example, the fabric matters and how close it is to your face. So, for example, the dress you're wearing right now, I can see it's got a lot of space here. You can maybe see a wee bit more skin. You can have a top inside that you can see that's closer to your face. So if you can draw the eye somewhere else, like absolutely that makes a massive difference. So black, for example, I'll give another example of black, right? If you feel like, you know, black really drains me, but, you know, black is one of these pieces that people see as a staple. It's not actually, but I can come to that another time. But people see it as a staple. So I always think, right, if a different fabric, if it's a matte black where it's like that, really harsh black, it can drain a lot of people. But if it's a silk fabric, it's a lot softer. It's not quite a harsh black velvet.
Yeah, because you're playing with light then as well, aren't you?
You're playing with light a little bit and it reflects away. If you can see a lot of your skin, that's really good. If you have a lot of metallic details on that, can take away from that. So there's always ways to make it work. But for me, black is one of these colours that over time I've realised is the biggest culprit for why people cannot match their pieces in their wardrobes. Right. Because whilst society tells you it works with everything, it really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. And so you try and say, I feel like it works really well as a monochrome, right? Black and white, amazing. That's why black tie events work, right?
Yeah. This is a hot take. I'm loving this.
Yes, I'm just, you know, this is so important because people are honestly stuck in this. I call it the black hole. It's the black hole, right? And so, yeah, black and white, great. Black and grey, great. Black on black, fantastic, right? But then you're like, oh, let me wear my fuchsia pink top with black. Does not work. It's too harsh. It looks so cheap. It just looks awful, right? It does not work. Oh, I'm going to try the purple top. again, it's maybe okay, but not great. So what people don't realize is other neutrals that are just as dark as black that you can wear instead that actually like harmonize with these colors so much better. So food for thought, if you had all these other neutrals that worked with all the other colors, including your whites and your blacks and your browns and everything like that, would you not want to invest your money in those colors instead and then get this cohesive wardrobe instead of like staying with black? And then you can only wear it with two things. It's one look, right? Which you can do 2 days. But what do you do the other days? What do people do?
That's so interesting. Ooh, okay. I have some reckoning to do with my own wardrobe now. Awesome. So as I was saying to you before, like when we agreed that we were going to have this conversation, I put it up in my Check Your Thread Patreon group and we got an amazing response. So many people had so many interesting questions, tons and tons. Like I was really surprised how many people said, oh yeah, I've had my colours done. So that was really interesting. So I have some questions from some of the patrons. I also have some of their experiences that they've shared as well. So this is from Check Your Thread patron Louise. So Louise said that she treated herself to an online consultation rather than a face-to-face one. She found it really useful choosing colours and gaining confidence when choosing colour and fabrics and stuff. So Louise would like to know if face-to-face consultations with the coloured cloths are the most effective methods, or is online consultation still valuable in your opinion? And also, sub-question, I don't know if it's just because I've been switched onto it now or, you know, so my algorithm's now working, but I've noticed so much kind of colour analysis content floating around like Instagram and TikTok, and I don't know if you've seen that, I'm sure you have seen a lot of that, and do you think a lot of it stands up? Is it actually as useful as it claims to be?
I've seen little bits, but I don't engage with social media too much. It's actually one of the least favourite parts of my job. Well, people just tie you with the same brush and think you're an influencer. I'm like, no, I'm just a stylist. I love seeing clients and teaching. So anyway, I try and just like keep my posts going, but I don't spend too much time on it because I just find it's a lot. But I have maybe seen a couple, and I know a lot of clients that have seen the videos coming up. So what I would say is definitely in person, if you can, is always best. However, it depends on the stylist that you go to for online. And I think with online, the key is to have a stylist who's experienced to go to for online consultations, because there's a lot that can go wrong, I think, more with online. So if your pictures are maybe not great, so you need your pictures to be like under natural light. You need the trained eye of going, I think this person's skin is not looking right, the lighting's not good, and be able to tell them, look, can you take another photo? If you don't have that experience of knowing what it should look like even before you start, then it probably would skew your colour analysis. So it's combined with experience. I think of having worked with so many clients, so then you would know, hold on, this person's like got this shade of green eyes because it's different green eyes, different browns, and this person's skin tone. But that coupled with a questionnaire of like what colours they like and what they've been drawn to. So you then form a picture of, right, okay, I think I'm on the right track with this. So you need both, to get it right. I think if you just analyse someone not knowing any of that, it could easily be wrong online. So I think the experience makes a massive difference with online consultations. In person, it's a wee bit different because you're there, you're using the drapes, you can physically see it with the right light in your studio. So that makes life a lot easier, I think, from a stylist perspective with analysing colours. But I think both are equally as valuable. But the main thing is just getting someone with like a lot of years of experience with that.
Yeah. There was one Instagram account that I've been looking at about colour analysis. Is a woman who is in the US, and every video she's got her client in a chair and she's got some drapes, and I always feel like she's really leading the witness because she does this thing, she's suddenly like, oh no, and then she goes, oh, you know, and makes it, she's so dramatic that I feel like the person who's having the analysis, like they have no other choice but to go with however.
Yeah, if they say oh no and you think oh yes, like what do you
yeah, exactly, they're like well obviously I'm like yeah that's great. I just find it so funny.
It's also making sure the person can see what you see, and sometimes it does take a little while for the person to be like, oh, I see what you see. So it's showing them, hold on, do you see the bit under your eyes? Do you see what it's doing to your skin? Look at this bits, look at these bits, and then eventually the person's like, do you know what, I really see it now. Like,
yeah. So you can take that skill when you're going into a fabric shop or you're going into a clothing store.
Yes, exactly.
Because unfortunately, you're not always going to be with them.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I make sure I do in a style consultation, in a color consultation. Sorry, I need to make sure that they can shop themselves even without the color palette, because there's so much reliance on the color palette, which yeah is great, but what happens if you lose it, or
Yeah.
or you're somewhere like excited about shopping and you don't have it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or you've just gone around someone's house and they're like, look, I've got these things. Like, would you like them? You're like, oh, I haven't got my swatches.
I know exactly. That's not good enough. So yeah, it's really important. I think the understanding bit is so important as well.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so it's clear, as especially I've been noticing on the online versions, or the majority of colour analysis content is geared towards white or lighter skinned complexions. So I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences of analysing skin tones across different ethnicities. And one commenter on the Check Their Patron said, doesn't having black hair automatically make someone winter? So for a lot of ethnicities where, very dark hair is common, does that mean they're automatically a winter? Like, obviously, no,
Yeah,
but could you elaborate a bit more on that? Like, do you find
yeah.
that the majority of that content is more towards white and lighter skinned
I think
complexions?
depending where you live, like where I live in Scotland, there's maybe like especially in my area, there's not as many people from different ethnicities, so you naturally get less people coming through for it. Because out of say the percentage of people that I hear is like how many people want to do this, so you maybe get a small percentage. But I've had quite a few clients from like all different ethnicities, and I think especially kind of from Asian backgrounds or like kind of Black African, it needs a trained eye to be able to see that sort of undertone and things like that. So what people don't realize again with color analysis is you need all three. You need your skin tone, you need your hair color, and you need your eye color. You need all three, not just two, not just one. So I noticed some color analysis online, like they'll cover the hair, but then I'm like, but you're not going to be walking around with covered hair. I really don't get that. So I'm like, no, it needs to, unless if someone had like obviously a hair color that's not their natural, like so far off, then I would maybe just kind of use their roots or something like that. But if that's, someone said, no, this is my natural hair, of course you want to use that, right? So you need all three. And what tends to happen is when someone just thinks, oh, I've got yellowy skin tone, you just think, oh, my undertone is warm, so therefore I'm warm. Now, I've had, especially sort of Asian skin tones, everyone's kind of yellowy skin tones, right? So people just think, oh, it must be warm, but there's so many people that are cool. And it's only until you put the drapes on when the skin tone can also be just an overtone. So sometimes the eye can only look at the overtone, which is a bit that you see. But underneath that, I feel like sometimes it just takes the drapes to look at, hold on, you've got yellowy skin tone, but oh, there's a bit of pinkiness, a bit of redness to you, and that's the sort of cooler undertone, right? And then depending on the hair color, so yes, you can have like black or brown, but it's more about the tone of the hair, right? So golden tones would tend to be warmer, and ashy tones would tend to be cooler, or like chocolate brown is just in the middle. So someone could have black hair but with slight golden tones, so that's enough. So sometimes coupled with like light brown eyes to make that warm, right? All these subtle differences make a massive difference to that person. And so it's about just having that trained eye to be like, hold on a minute, yes, you've got a bit of yellowness, and yes, you might be able to pull off mustard. It's not as bad as maybe someone Caucasian that can't pull off mustard, but it's not the best color for you, right? It's, these are the colors are so much better. So I think in that case, it's a case of these are your best colors, but you could maybe, get away with this and this if you really love them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think the importance of a color palette is also how the colors combine. If you get a color palette, a lot of the time the colors on that color palette will tend to be cohesive. You can mix and match them really easily. So if you add too much of, say for example, I'm in winter, but then I have like all these other like warm colors because I'm like, oh, I don't care. I'll struggle to mix and match because the warm colors won't match with my cooler colors.
Right.
So unless I'm a millionaire, I've got two wardrobes, one side's warm, one side's cool. I'm really have to think about the cohesiveness of my wardrobe, which means I want to focus on my base colors first, get as many shades of that in. And then with like add-ons maybe from like the other palette, because then I'm getting that cohesiveness. And then the others, I just need to know which other shades I can match them with. So it's a lot more informed than people think wear what you want, because wear what you want doesn't get you anywhere because you're still struggling to mix and match. You're still struggling to shop, knowing your shades. So that advice, I think, is not great, because it's like, yeah, you can wear what you want, but you need a starting point. You need to make things easier for yourself. when you're getting dressed every day, when you're shopping, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So with the 12 seasons, so that is obviously the basic seasons. And then did you say that it was deep, muted, and bright? Is that the way that then each of those are kind of subcategorized?
Yeah, so you've got colour. So first you suit warmer or cooler colours. So that's the kind of biggest one that I've been talking about. And then do you suit lighter or darker colours? And then do you suit brighter or muted colours? So muted just also means soft. So if someone says soft, it just means muted. So it's the three elements. So you either be warm or cool. And again, you might say, for example, with dark skin, you might be like, actually, they don't look that bad. Like both of them are looking okay, but there'll always be one that will just like give you that extra lift. So you'll always be one or the other. I know people say, I think I'm neutral, like I'm in between, I suit everything. Yeah, to a certain extent, you could maybe get away with wearing both, but there's one that will always shine more than the other. So therefore, I don't believe in that neutrality. I always think, well, you want to go for those base colours then so that you can also get that cohesive mix and match as well.
Nice. That's great. So as I was saying, when I was posting about this in the Patreon, a surprising amount of people said that they've had it done previously, and then all of them who'd had it done said that they did find it incredibly helpful. All but one, actually. I'll come back to that one person in a minute.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the vast majority said that they did find it a really helpful experience. But many went on to ask, does the analysis still stand as we age? Like, for example, as maybe our skin changes a little bit or as our hair goes grey?
Sometimes yes, but other times no, because if your colouring ultimately changes. So what I notice is if someone was cool maybe before, say they were a winter, and then say as you age, especially with Caucasians or skin tones or light coloured skin tones, it can go quite yellowy as you age. A mixture of just travel, sun, and everything like that. So then you might sort of get that warmth coming through.
I think that my skin tone is changing. I think mine's going a bit more yellowy, less pinky.
Yeah, that can happen. And then remember how I said it's all three. So you've got skin, hair, and eyes. So then say, for example, your hair was like super ashy, and then say your greys come in, but you decide to dye it this blonde, that's your hair colour also change. So if a couple of things change in your colouring, that can really, can change your overall colouring. So if you feel like that's happening, I feel like people naturally know when that happens, because they'll be like, hold on a minute, I used to be able to get away with this shade of green, and now I'm finding it really drains. So there's that awareness as well. And I think if that's happening a lot, there's maybe time to redo, like get your colours done again to double check that, because you will know if something's not right, because the things that used to be your go-tos all of a sudden are not working.
Right, so it can change, and it's not just when, as you know, as we naturally age. Also, as like people change their appearance in other ways. Like for example, they dye or bleach their hair, or maybe they start wearing a lot of bronzer, or those kind of things as well. They can have an impact on
It really can. So it's that's why I say it's really good to be careful about the shades that you dye your hair. So if you say someone cool, you want to maybe maintain ashy tones, like just kind of cooler tones in your hair. And if you're warm, you want to maintain warm tones. So a lot of the time when clients also come to the studio, when I'm getting the colours done, if I feel like the hair is completely off, like I'll say, look, I think you really need to tell your hairdresser to make your hair more ashy. And that will really, because you can still see it looks okay, but like just tweaking it to lean more into whatever side they're on can really bring it out even more. So I'll sometimes suggest that to clients as well.
Oh, that is so interesting. And presumably makeup as well. It impacts the makeup process.
Yes, so makeup is also another thing that, like the 12 seasonal system, actually, the colour palettes are really good for like makeup shades, especially for lip colours, blusher colours. A lot of the shades that are on that person's palette are like, they're perfect, like kind of makeup shades. However, it can be like more the blusher and like the foundation. I always recommend just getting yourself color match. Sometimes your overall coloring could be like warm, but you might be like more neutral in your skin, right? So it doesn't automatically mean you need like warm makeup that is maybe too yellowy, right? So that's the bits that when someone comes in again for a color consultation, we cover makeup shades, but I have to look at that individual as an individual and look at their skin and be like, actually, you're not too warm, you're more sort of neutral, too warm, or, just neutral. Or you could be like, right, blusher, these shades are great, but you want your blusher to be as natural as possible. So you don't want, if you're warm, you don't want any pinky shades that just look like artificial. You want it to be like as blendy, as natural as possible. Lip colour is where I say you can be a wee bit more bold, and obviously your palette will give you lots of shades, but you can also just use the warm and cool differentiator thing, which I teach my clients to do. And then you can give yourself a little bit more leeway with more options for lip colors and things like that.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, so as I was saying, there's one person who commented that didn't have the most positive experience when they had their colours done. So,
oh no! So what happened? I'm not really.
I know. So Debbie was was pretty much the only patron who responded, said that they had a slightly negative experience of getting their colours done. So Debbie said, "I had a 30-minute mini session last year, and I was so sad. Most of my favourite colours to wear weren't on the card. There were lots of soft, neutral tones I don't feel I look good in, and my beloved cobalt." I can't say that word. Cobalt and teal were not included. I suppose my question is, how reproducible are the results? Will you always get the same results from every analyst? And is it some of it open to interpretation? It sounds like they had a very quick session. Maybe wasn't as thorough as maybe others might have.
I mean, you can do these pictures, like I'll do workshops, and a lot of the time we do like the warm and cool, because you're getting a big group and everybody has to get analysed. So you're trying to get the biggest impact. And for me, it is the warm and cool, because it gives you a wide range of colours. So if, say, you've got Debbie, for example, say she got like one of these mini sessions, they're not comprehensive enough, so it's not the same thing, but it's still effective. Like, it still gives you a starting point. So say, for example, they say you are, I don't know, like a cool summer, right? A cool summer's not going to get like, soft colours. It sounds like she might be that. So softer colours, you're not getting like the really kind of bright colours. So for me, I'll be thinking, I always say to my clients, right, it might be this 12 seasonal system, it might be a cool summer, but the most important thing is you're cool. So I don't care that you're sticking to just your cool summer. As long as it's cool, like it's really close enough, you can go for it. If it feels too bright, fix it. Like, have a neutral color jacket on top of it. Like, you can always fix those bits. But if, the biggest thing for me, I would be saying, right, if say they're cool, I'll be like, if it's warm, that's when I'll be like, actually, that's too far.
Yeah.
But as long as it's cool, you can play within that realm. So, for example, she doesn't have teal, she doesn't have cobalt blue. Those are cool colours. That's close enough. You don't want to restrict yourself to that extent. She can wear those colours. And as I said, she can just add things to kind of take away, or if it feels too bright. But even if it's bright, as long as it's cool, it's close enough that it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about mixing of colours then, because as you were just saying then, like, maybe Debbie can wear those colours, but maybe in a certain combination.
Yeah, so with mixing colours, it takes a little bit of practice, but the simplest way to do it is, if you've identified a colour as being cool, which also takes a bit of time because you need to know what to look for and the difference between warm and cool shades. But if you've identified it as being cool, you can match it with another cool colour. So it's not about the colour, it's about the shade. So if I've got cobalt blue trousers that are maybe not great for close to my face, but it's still a cool colour, so I'm like, fine, I can wear it. I can match it with any other cool shade. So I'll be looking for like a cool pink, maybe like an icy pink. I can wear it with that. I can wear a cool blue. I can wear it with that. I can wear a cool brown, like a cocoa colour. I could wear it with that. I could wear it with a cool green, like emerald. So there's so many colours, but you have to make sure it's cool for it to match. But there's also a couple of neutrals that, I can mention today that might help somebody, that are universal, that will work well with pretty much every colour. The two that are the best of the best, that, they don't drain anybody, they look good with everything, are your dark navy.
Mm-hmm.
And not just any navy, not a medium navy, not a light navy. It has to be like a super dark navy. Similar to what I'm wearing today, it works with absolutely everything. So you can use it to wear like really bold colours, like similar to like what I'm wearing right now. I'm wearing like purple suit, but I'm used navy as an anchor to like just kind of keep it together. So dark navy is great, which, that's why it's important. I always say to my clients, get it for like tailored trousers, because then all of a sudden you can wear all your tops and jumpers with it. So your cost per wear is really high. If you invested, say, in a pair from Reese, you may be paying 150 quid, but, the cost per wear, you can wear everything with that.
Yeah.
So dark navy, and then a soft white. Harsh white can be too harsh maybe on some people. A cream can be too yellowy for maybe cooler tones. But if you can get a white, but a soft white, that works well, again, with both warm and cool shades, which means if you've got something you don't suit, like brown trousers or tan, and you're cool, you can have that on your bottom half, and you can have a white blouse, white t-shirt, white top that you can use to wear with. So these are two colours that are always my go-to if I feel like, oh my goodness, this is really colourful. What do? I don't suit it. What do I wear? That's two colours that you can always like add on.
Interesting. That's so interesting. So those are never going to be a bad investment, in your opinion?
Never. Also, on top of that, actually, one that we haven't had before but had recently is a dark, cool brown. So brown is like the color of the year, but this is, it's not a yellowy brown. It's like a very kind of cool, bluey, kind of almost like chocolate brown.
Mm-hmm.
That as well is cool. So it's a cooler brown, so it works with cool colors. But because it's brown, brown's naturally warm, it also works with warm colors. So that's something I would do in my footwear and bags. So then between the navy, the soft white, and the dark brown, you're sorted. Your wardrobe's sorted. You can almost wear everything in your wardrobe now if you have those key colours.
So who can wear black? Who needs to avoid black?
So people that are cool with darker features can wear black. Absolutely looks great. People that are cool with lighter features will probably struggle with black, but because they're cool, they'll maybe have some cooler things that can get away with on the top and then keep black on the bottom half. People who are warm are terrible for black. So if you're warm, whether you're warm and light, especially because black's dark, not great. So if you're spring, somewhere there, not great. If you're in autumn, kind of warm and dark, sometimes if it's not a bad black, you can kind of get away with the depth of black. But yeah, in general, the warmer people are in trouble with black. It's not the best. But ultimately, I did say black doesn't work with a lot of things. So I don't see it as a must-have. I see it as a nice-to-have. So I would only really have black if I feel like that garment is really good. It's spectacular, like a spectacular dress that doesn't need anything matched with it. Or just a few key pieces. You may be thinking maybe a couple of pairs of trousers, right? Say 3 dresses, leather trousers, leather jacket, shoes, bag. But I would count maybe just 10 pieces max. It's like, how many blacks have we all got in our wardrobe? So that's the bit that's stopping you from mixing all your clothes. You've got too much black.
Oh, this is so interesting.
You mix on your black, and all of a sudden you start to feel your wardrobe feeling more cohesive, but also you'll naturally look so much better because colours, even other neutrals, just look so much softer and lighter that they just naturally look more put together and they look really nice. So yeah, food for thought there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, I've got a few more questions. So how do printed fabrics work? So do all the colours in the print have to adhere to your palette, or is it more about like the base colour or the predominant colour in a design?
I would say the predominant colour. Think of percentages and also
Right.
think of the background colour instead of the colours that are on top. So if the background of, say, a colour was orange and it had like 5 blue flowers on top of it, it's obviously going to lean more towards the warm side because it's like 80% warm, right? So think about what's taking up the biggest surface area, and usually that is the background colour. So if you've got a cream background but with slightly cooler shades, it's maybe still leaning towards the warm side. So try and almost naturally think, right, would I overall put this towards the warmer side, or would I put that towards the cooler side? And then you can make an informed decision based on which side you're on. So I'll give you an example. I bought this top that had sort of some browns in it and kind of teal, so it was leaning towards the warmer side, but I thought actually it's not that bad, I can wear it. But guaranteed, two years later, it was in a bin bag getting ready for charity because I always knew it wasn't quite right. So if in doubt, just make sure you've got enough of your colours in that garment instead of just thinking, oh, that would do. That's not good enough anymore. We need more precision than that.
Okay, cool. So, also, so from what I understand, we were talking about makeup as well and hair colour and how like the colour analysis can affect those kind of choices. So some colour analysis sessions seem to also include advice on what colour metal jewellery looks good on you.
Yeah.
So what's the advice there? Because I was thinking about in terms of sewing your own clothes, if you're making something that's got like different hardware, like kind of if you're making something that's got metal buttons on, I was wondering if you have any advice with that.
So silver is cool, gold's warm, and then rose gold is kind of in between. So both people wear that. So what I would suggest is if you know your colours, if you're cool, so summer or winter, then I would prioritise silver. If you're warm, I would prioritise gold. And then rose gold. Rose gold, I feel like, is for people that just like don't know. I don't know, so I'll say. So I always prefer either gold or silver. Like I just feel like rose gold. It depends. Some things it can look nice, some things it's not great. So it just depends. But yeah, I'll prioritise whatever you suit. But however, I know the trends now are to mix metals, and I know some people that are cool like gold. So I don't think that's too much of a big deal that you should restrict yourself to that extent. I think what you like. If I was investing, obviously I know I'm cool, I would obviously want to invest in silver because then it matches my things more. But then I'll add a couple of gold pieces that may be inexpensive. That's how I would do it.
Right.
So if you're maybe someone who's warmer, you want more investment golds and then maybe non-investment silvers to add in. Does that make sense? So you don't want to like do it at the same time. Like I know if I wear gold like close to my face, like earrings, it looks off my face, looks really awful. So I try and just like rings or just not close to my face. So
Yeah.
I like gold. It's just I think some people can get away more than others. Like springs, I find can get away with more silver and gold. Like it tends to look okay with both. But like definitely like winters, I like more kind of silvers. So
Okay.
yeah, go for what you suit, and then you can maybe add 1 or 2 pieces with the other metal, whatever.
Brilliant. Okay, so patron Lindsay, who is actually the person that tipped me off about you, so she's also from Glasgow.
Yeah, oh great.
Lindsay says, I've brought fabric online and swore it was the perfect colour for me, and when it arrived, it wasn't what I thought. Do you have any tips for online shopping with regards to seeing a true colour on screen?
Yeah, so most colours you can tell, again, it's looking for that sort of undertone and looking, so the warm shades would tend to be yellow based.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be green, but you can see it's a yellowy green. So I always say, warm shades, think of the sun. Does it remind you of the sun? You can see that sort of underlying yellowness to it. And then cool shades tend to be more blue-based, quite icy, quite stark. So I feel like even when you're shopping online, you can see a hint of that. So it's a khaki, say, but you can see that, it's very yellowy khaki. I can see a bit of yellow in that. So I find that it's easier to see that on screen as it is in the shop as well. The most difficult colour to get right online is red. Red is, oh my goodness, it's so hard to get, because with red you're looking for orange. If it's an orange red, it's warm. If it doesn't have the orange, so like a pinky red or blue red, that tends to be cooler. But that, depending on how they've taken the photo, sometimes it could have a yellow filter on it, so it's really hard to tell. But I know that if I see a pinky red, I know that's more raspberry, that's cooler. And then I know that if I see a lot of orange in that red and it's online and it looks almost orange, then I know that that's going to be warm. So it's just training your eye to look for these details can make a massive difference.
Fantastic, thank you. 2 more questions. So Caro would like some advice on getting bolder and braver. Caro says, I'd be interested to know what to look out for or what to try when experimenting with colour and challenging your safe colours. So it sounds like Caro's gone a bit of a rut and would like to be a bit more experimental.
So is she asking specifically what colours to try, you think?
I think more just like how to maybe get out of your rut, possibly.
I think, I know this is not going to surprise you, but actually less black. Because if you can do like the navies and whites and dark brown, it's going to allow you to do random colours. And I think that's just like, it makes it so much easier to style things. So I think for me, I would say cut back on the black, do a declutter, remove all the cheap like black things. Keep obviously some really good pieces. You don't want to, get rid of everything. And then start adding like these 3 colours in. So add the navy, add the white, add the dark brown in your shoes and bag. Honestly, so you want your whites and your tops, you want your navy in your bottom, and you want your accessories to be like dark brown. And then honestly, whatever colour you're going to add on top of that is just going to work. It's like magic. So that's where I would start, I think. And you surprise yourself, because all of a sudden you can have like a lemon yellow on your top, right, with the navy trousers, and you can have like light pink. So then it just opens up this whole new world. Or you could have like white trousers, right, but like with a pink top, and it just looks so sleek. So the minute, if you have like, for example, even like dresses, like a pattern with black in it, you're forced to wear black shoes, black bag, and then it's like, ways of creativity. So the minute you remove that, it's like, the world's your oyster. You can do so much.
Oh, that's great. That's a great tip. Thank you. Right, last question. Yeah. So Liz has this super fun question to wrap things up. Just curious, how does one become a colour analyst?
So that takes training. There's so many training platforms available at the moment. I know London School of Style does courses. When I started out, so I've been doing this for about 15 years. When I started out, there wasn't as many. This was like an American thing that came here. And I just stumbled it by accident. But so I was doing fashion modelling. So that kind of got me into sort of fashion industry in that sense. And then my course was actually online, so I felt like I had to really practice it in real life. I started off with family and friends, and then obviously over the years you start to then understand it better and notice the difference of shades and all of that. So I've kind of had to really train myself, obviously with that online knowledge. We had the tutor and everything that would mark your grades and everything, and so you had to learn almost a little bit slower than probably now you could go and do a course for a week, and because it's hands-on and it's in person, it's so much easier. So yeah, just a wee bit of colour training, and you could probably, start off like a business. Like, it's a really good industry to get into. It takes a lot more than that, because anyone can train to do that, but I think you need to be really good with people. You need to have an eye for things outside the box. As I was saying, every client is so individual. You need to make it individual to them, even though you have like the basic skills. So yeah, I'll start with some training.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been so good.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, it's been great fun.
Awesome. So where can people find you and learn more about you and your work?
So I have my website. It's www.stylmyflawless.co.uk, and I'm on Instagram. So my Instagram is just Style Me Flawless, and I am on Facebook, but pretty much more Instagram, because the same post I do on Instagram I do on Facebook. I do have my email list is probably the best place to be. So if you're on my website, you can sign up to any of my freebies. And I love my email list, because that's where I really, really go deeper. And I'll try and send a weekly email, and it'll be at so many different topics. It could be about what I've experienced that week, something that could help you that week, just little snippets of something to kind of look forward to. So I'd recommend just signing up to my newsletter, and then you hear from me like almost every week, unless I'm on holiday, about different styling topics.
Amazing. I'm signing up. That sounds great.
Yeah, please do. It's really good. It's really good.
Brilliant. Well, I'll put links to all of that in the show notes. Thank you again so much for your time. This has been wonderful.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!